Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Please, if you can hear me, please just say I. Oh, thank you.
Hi.
Thank you. Hi, how are you doing? Thank you, everyone. I apologize for joining late. I took a nap. Yeah, so we'll get started immediately. Let me share my screen. Good afternoon, Adesua. Okay, let's share the screen. Right. If you can see my screen, you can see I too. So can you guys see my screen? Hi, Victoria. Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Good afternoon. Yeah, so guys, this is a new week, right? So we're going to be talking about fundamentals of technical writing this week. So we'll start with the 4 C's. There are 3 C's where I added mine. So the 4 C's of technical writing. So they're like fundamental things that has to be in your technical writing content. Like your technical content has to have these 4 items baked into them. So the first one on the list is conciseness. So conciseness is basically the practice of conveying information in a clear and efficient manner, which means avoiding unnecessary words, unnecessary phrases, and unnecessary details that could clutter the document, because the goal is to provide essential information without overwhelming the reader. So anything you don't need to put in your content, you just don't put it. There are no buts, there are no ifs or maybes. You just don't put them. Anything that is unnecessary, you have to cut them out because it has to be concise. Only the things that you know that the reader needs to know should be in your technical content. For example, writing in order to facilitate the optimal functionality of the software application, it is imperative that users adhere to established guidelines and follow the prescribed procedures as outlined in this manual. Right? So you don't write this when you can just write to optimize the software, follow the guidelines in this manual. So anything that is unnecessary, words, phrases, punctuations, details, anything that will clutter the document, just remove them. Because look at the example here now. The first one and the second one. If a reader is reading the first sentence in an article, they'll be like, optimal functionality, what is imperative? Like, you just have to write simple English, because I don't have to go to my dictionary to check the meaning of imperative and come back, read more, then go back again to check the meaning of adhere, or that back and forth, because not everyone is a native English speaker or reader. So the bare minimum that is required to understand the article is all you need. So conciseness is a very, very, very important fundamental of technical writing. It has to be concise. You have to consider it. So there are lots of examples of this, but I believe this is like a very, very good one to show you guys the importance of being concise in your technical articles, because some people don't even know the meaning of facilitate, right? So just the minimum, the bare minimum that is required is all you need. So moving on, the second one is correctness. So correctness involves ensuring that the content in your technical document is factually accurate, and free from errors, right? This includes grammar, spelling, punctuation, and accuracy of the technical details. This means you have to like be Your explanation of the technical concepts has to be correct. Your code has to be correct and work properly, right? So, but working with words, a very good example of correctness is this: the data located on the Prometheus server, which is known for its reliability, right? So this is just a simple case of like word misspelling. The which here is means different thing from the correct one. So just have to be conscious of that too. It has to be correct. Like every little detail has to be correct. Because I think I mentioned it maybe in the last session or the previous one before that, that I literally had to correct a comma in a documentation of a particular company I was working with because the comma was there and I didn't know what the whole paragraph meant, right? So you just have to, it has to be correct to the letter. Grammar, spelling, punctuation, and your technical details, the concepts, the code examples, the configurations, everything has to be correct, right? So moving on, the next one on the list is clarity. Okay. Clarity is about making your technical writing easy to understand for your target audience. It involves using plain language, organizing information logically, and avoiding jargon or overly complex language. So I think the forces are related. They are all connected. So this is also like being correct, writing clearly, and organizing the information logically. Um don't put a section that has to be below on at the top, right? The headings has to follow like themselves logically because you can't explain something that for example, if you are building an application like a sample application for your technical content, and you have to like follow the configuration, like the building process has to reflect in your content, right? You don't just say something in your article just for the sake of saying. You have to say things because you are supposed to say them at that point before saying any other thing. That will make it hard for the reader to understand, right? So technical concepts, avoid jargon, right? Just use simple language. So an example of jargon includes like Grammarly, right? The interface includes a plethora of multifarious options for the purpose of user customization. Like, what's the meaning of plethora? What is multifarious? So it's just a lot to unpack for the user. Like they have to go to the dictionary or Google to check the meaning of the words, right? So I read it somewhere. I'm going to share the resource. I read it somewhere. I don't remember, but the author said the brain of your reader is like a computer. So don't tell it something it won't understand immediately. That's to like be able to understand every single sentence immediately they read it. So this includes presenting abbreviations properly before using them, explaining concepts before putting them in your sentences and all of that. So the clear version of this would be the interface offers many user customization options. That's it. Because plethora of multifarious options simply means many. They don't mean like anything different than many. So this is much more clear. So that's what clarity is about, making it easy to understand for your target audience. Right. So the next one, quick check. Can you guys hear me? If you can hear me, just
Yes, I can.
okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you. So moving on, we have consistency. Consistency is the process of ensuring that your technical document maintains uniformity in style, formatting, and terminology throughout. You know, there are certain concepts or terminologies that have multiple names, right? So in some cases in programming, you can use authentication and authorization interchangeably. So terms like that, you have to like use just one and use that throughout your document. So the reader is not confused later in the article, like, what does this mean? What does it mean, authorization? When the only terminology or the term that they've read previously was authentication. So if you mean the same thing with multiple words, it has to be one. Just choose one and use that. Another good example is when you are writing like you are using we and our in your article. Like we will be looking at this, we will be exploring so and so in our PHP application in the next section. And in the next section, you start writing, I will be doing this, which helps you to do this in your article. So we, our, I, your, you just have to choose one. Either you use we and our throughout your document, or you use I and your in your document. So you don't use multiple concepts or terminologies and they mean the same thing. It doesn't make sense. So you have to be consistent. Same goes with your headers, right? You import, like, order headers. You have to order your headers. Like the font size has to be, for example, if the current header is benefits of type hinting in PHP or in JavaScript, right? The next header that lists like the benefits has to be like smaller font than the benefits, the title of the section, right? So that is very, very important also, because when I read something that is H4 header and I read the next one that is H3 header, I'll be confused, like which one is under the other one. It's confusing. So consistency in style, formatting, and terminology throughout the document, throughout. So this helps the reader navigate the document smoothly and reduces confusion, right? So an example of that is the device is also referred to as widget 5000 and widget dash 5000 in different sections of this manual. That makes no sense because you can just use widget 5000, widget space 5000 throughout the manual. So consistently throughout the manual, everything is widget 5000, because the dash could mean like maybe a smaller version or a version that is inside the widget 5000. So it might even mean an app. Maybe the widget space 5000 is the device and widget 5000 is the app. So they can interpret your writing in like 3, 4, 5 different ways. That does not make sense because that causes confusion. They are confused. What is widget dash 5000? What is widget space 5000? So you have to be consistent. Just choose one term and use that term throughout the document, right? So moving forward, we are going to be looking at tips on how you can improve on these fundamentals in your writing. So we'll start with conciseness. So before moving on, do you have any question? You guys have any question? You can drop them in the chat box or unmute yourself and speak. Okay, so moving on, tips to improve conciseness in technical writing. Avoid redundancy. That's the first one. So eliminate words or phrases that repeat information. For example, instead of saying at this point in time, just say now. Right? So that is a lot shorter, simpler, and way easier to understand. Because, like I said earlier, some people are not very, very good with English language, right? So at this point in time, they might be feeling like, what is this point? What is in time, right? So just say now. That makes it easier on everyone, right? So the next one is using active voice. Always use active voice over passive voice to make sentences more direct and concise, right? So instead of writing, we are going to be doing this, just write, we will be doing this, or we will do this. That's way simpler. And at the end of this document, I'm going to link some resources that you guys need to go and read about. And we'll talk about what you learn from them in the next session on Wednesday. So using active voice is like this, the one of the like most important things, because passive voice can be confusing sometimes, but keep in mind that the style guide you are using, if your company style guide uses passive voice to communicate with their audience, just go with it. But I've never seen that, right? So any one of these tips here, you can override them with instructions that is inside the style guide that you are using, right? So moving on, remove filler words. Just cut out filler words like very, quite, really, except like maybe you sent the article in and the editor adds the filler words, you can leave them. But they don't make sense in a lot of cases when writing technical content. Because you're not trying to convince anyone to do anything than just solve their problem. So really, saying really means maybe you want to convince them that this is really important or this really makes sense or something. No, this makes sense because that's fact. I remember from our previous class, we learned that you are dealing with facts, not personal opinions. So anything you write in your document is like the facts that like they are facts that relate to the product, the API, or anything that you are documenting. So you are not making them up. They are facts. So you treat them as such. So that's why filler words like very, quiet, really, usually don't really like make sense much when you're writing technical content. So moving on, choosing strong verbs. Most times you need to choose strong verbs. Use strong action verbs that convey your message efficiently. And this reduces the need for excessive adjective, and adverbs, right? So that's just like one of the important parts of using grammar in technical writing. You need to use strong verbs almost every time. So moving on, shorten sentences. So this is another very important thing. Tip. Remember when we talk about conciseness, the example. So why write long sentence when you can just break it down to short one that will be easy to understand and less complex, right? So breaking long sentences into shorter ones improve readability and reduce complexity. So they are always better. Shorter sentences are the best because the reader can just read it and understand and move on to the next one. There's no need to put in a lot of words or pack a lot of things into one sentence. Doesn't make sense most times. So avoid nominalization. So nominalization means using nouns that are created from verbs, right? So you have to convert them back into verbs. For example, if you want to say make an assessment, you just remove the make and the meant in the assessment and just say assess. Make an assessment by going through your code and figuring out some errors. Just shorten it to assess your code so you can figure out the errors and fix them. Simple and easy, right? So the next one on the list is omitting unnecessary details. Remember, that's the main point of being concise. You have to remove any unnecessary detail that is not required for your reader to understand the content. So just focus on essential information and leave out details that are not crucial to the understanding of the topic. That's it. No more, no less. Essential information only. Everything else can be put in another document totally or just leave them out if they are not crucial to the understanding of the topic, right? So using lists and bullets for readability. So organize information into lists or bullet points to make it easier for readers to scan and absorb key points. So when listing benefits or disadvantages of like a particular concept you are teaching or writing about in your technical documents, using bullet points or putting lists like numbers in front of the benefit or any list you are putting out is like very helpful most times. But again, the style guide trumps every other tip that I'm sharing here. So some style guides. Yeah, Melissa,
Yeah, Mr. Adams.
good afternoon.
Please, can you give another good afternoon? Please, can you give another example of using active voice? That's the only thing I don't get.
Okay, using active voice.
Yes.
Okay, I'll do that. Let me finish explaining
Okay.
this one. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you for that. So using lists and bullet points is like peculiar to your style guide most times because some companies I've worked with require it, while some just remove it and use headers only. So again, they are helpful, but they are not like a must for you to use, right? So, okay. View. Okay, Melissa, you wanted another example of using active voice and passive voice.
Yes, to elaborate, to explain it better.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
So, which example can I use to make it easier?
What's nominal? Hmm?
Yeah? Is anyone speaking?
No one is speaking. You can continue.
Hello?
Yes. Can you guys hear me? Hello, can
I
you guys?
just I just started hearing you now.
Okay. Thank you for that. My network
Yeah.
has been acting up. Let's see. But it's better now, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. So using active voice is just shortening the sentences to make them more direct and concise. For example, you can say the banana is being eaten by Bob or by someone, when you can just say Bob is eating bananas. So another example is the diagram is being used by this person, when you can just say this person is using the diagram. So just shortening your sentences to make them more direct. Say things directly instead of passively, right? So she is waiting for me. Hello?
We can hear you.
Okay, she is waiting for me is like way longer than she's being waited for me, right? So he loves me is shorter. I am loved by him. Such sentences just
Cup.
okay. Okay. So he loves me is way shorter and like more understandable than I am being loved by him. So who is he? Like a lot of questions might arise from that particular sentence. So they are just means shortening your sentences and making them easy to understand. That's all. So does that answer your question? What's wrong with?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
You're welcome. So about that, I'm going to be linking some resources again for you guys to read more about the whole idea of the forces, right? So the
Mm-hmm. You can see what baby is doing. Baby is taking your juice.
Hi, Melissa. Please mute your mic.
yeah, I already did. right? So can you guys hear me? I'm having issues.
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
Yeah, thank
Although
you.
it goes off and on.
Oh, sorry about that. So I'm going to link a resource, some resources. It's just like one link, but there are a lot of sections under it that you can go through to improve like your knowledge on the whole idea of consistency, conciseness, clarity, and every other thing I will explain in this talk, right? So moving on, the last one we have here is considering the audience. So to improve conciseness, you need to like consider your audience. Okay, are they like professional English speakers? Are they experts in this space? Are they beginners? Are they intermediate developers? Should they understand this? So tailoring your writing to the knowledge of your audience will improve conciseness easily because you know that, okay, they can understand this sentence. Even without any other thing, they can understand this particular sentence. So that should guide you as you write. Like, okay, the people I'm writing for are like professionals or intermediate developers or in that field, right? So this goes back to adding prerequisites section. I usually do it right after the introduction, right? So the prerequisites are going to list out like, okay, you have to be this, you have to know this, you have to know that to continue to follow along, right? So if they don't have that knowledge, they know that, okay, this document is not meant for me, right? So another key thing you can do is in the prerequisites, okay, when I write go articles, I link my beginner series in the prerequisite, like, okay, you can go to this resource to learn more about Go, then come back to read this, right? So tailoring your writing to the knowledge level of your audience improves conciseness in the sense that you are going to be able to avoid unnecessary jargon or terms that you know that these people cannot understand this. So you have to break them down, right? So that's it for the conciseness. Moving on, improving correctness. Why is this? This thing is blocking my view. Okay. So tips to improve correctness in your technical content. Proofreading thoroughly. So you need to proofread it thoroughly and properly to review it for spelling, grammar, and punctuation errors. So proofreading is very, very important because if you don't read it over and over again, you won't be able to understand where and what you should improve on, right? So that's like the first thing you want to do when you want to improve correctness in your article. That, okay, this thing is correct. You have to just proofread, read it out loud. Yeah, reading it out loud is not necessary, but reading it out loud will make you think, okay, this thing sounds somehow. So you can read it out loud. That's another thing you can do while proofreading. Just read it out loud, then you can get those parts that sound weird or long or complex, so you can just break them down or correct them if you need to. So next one is checking facts. So like I said, technical writing is based on facts, so you cannot include any of your personal opinion, or if you are doing that, you have to clarify that, okay, this is not the only way to do this, but it is better for so and so reason. So you deal with facts. So verify all facts, data, and references to ensure accuracy. Okay, you are not misleading people or telling them things that are not so in your content, right? Or in the documents. And the next one is using style guides. So you can follow a recognized style guide, e.g., APA or MLA or Chicago writing guide, or the one that your company or your firm gives to you. So using style guides helps you to improve correctness, in the sense that when you read the content again and again, you figure out things that are not consistent. Okay, I use this term here, but I didn't use the same one here, or I didn't explain this abbreviation before going on to use the term, right? So using a style guide helps you improve, because you have like, okay, these are the things I need to do. Just read the article, read the style guide, then read the article, and you figure out the parts that need little touches, so you can just correct them. This can be consistency, formatting, or even citing resources, facts, or linking. So another one is to avoid ambiguity. So make sure your sentences and terms have clear meanings and cannot be interpreted in multiple ways. That's just it. Like I said earlier, things that can be interpreted in multiple ways cause confusion, because they don't know what you mean from just reading the sentence. So you just have to read again, and okay, this could mean multiple things. So you correct that part to mean like just one thing in that context, right? So next one is consulting experts. This, like, in the previous classes, we explored step-by-step process of writing technical documents, and this include the list included interviewing developers. So this is like the another like representation of that fact. You have to consult developers, consult designers, or anyone that is an expert in what you're writing if you are uncertain about anything. This might be like code examples, design decision. You have to, maybe you want to explain a particular design decision and you come across like a term that you don't know what it means, or a product or a tool that you don't know what it does. Just go to the subject matter expert, the designer in this case, to explain to you, okay, what's the meaning of this tool? What is it used for? Get their answer, then you go back to your article to correct it. So this goes back to proofreading. So when you proofread, you might have written the part already, then you just proofread and you say that, okay, what is the actual meaning of this word in this context? And you figure out that, okay, I don't know this, just go back to consult the expert to explain to you so you can document it properly. So that consulting experts improves correctness. So be cautious with technical jargon. So use the technical terminology correctly and sparingly, and provide explanations when necessary. That's it. So any concept you are bringing into the article, try to just explain it in just like one sentence. Then maybe put a link in the document for the reader to read more. So they can just click the link, read about the terminology before coming back so they can understand properly. So this helps them avoid confusion. So they are not confused and just keep reading that, oh, I don't know what that means, but let me keep reading. Maybe I'll understand along the way. You don't do that. So provide explanations when necessary every time. So the next one is citing sources properly. So in your article, you might claim that, okay, this our tool, maybe the tool you are documenting is 100 times faster than the so and so competitor. So you have to like put the external resource that can explain or prove that fact that you just cited. So you have to link to maybe the detailed comparison of your tool against other tool, or what you are documenting against other alternatives to back up your claim. So you need to do that to improve correctness, because someone can just read that and feel like, oh, that looks like a lie, because it's 100 times faster is like a lot. So when you link to the external source, the person can just click the article and see that, okay, this is the detailed comparison. So citing sources properly is very, very important. So moving on, using a spell checker, most times Grammarly, Writer, and others, to check grammar and spelling in your documents. But don't rely on them exclusively, because Grammarly gives me suggestions that don't make sense a lot of times. They just need to like dismiss, right? So don't rely on them exclusively. Do your own reading, and because there are some things that make sense in that context that Grammarly will tell you to remove, or other processing software. You check and underline is that this is wrong, and you know that this is not wrong, right? So don't rely on them, or they are going to even give you way more errors than you have before. So be careful with them, but use them to check. So seek feedback. So go back to your colleagues or your peers to review your work, so they can help you catch errors that you might have missed. So this is something I do a lot. I have like friends that write code and all of that. So I send my articles to them. Then they give me feedback like, okay, this does not work like this. So you might want to like correct it, because that's not how it works. Then I have to go back to the article to correct it and like get enough feedback to be able to like catch all the errors that you missed on your own. So that's it for improving correctness in your technical contents. So moving on, we are going to be looking at improving clarity in technical writing. So organizing information logically. So you need to structure your document with a clear hierarchy of headings and subheadings to guide users, right? So you don't put a section that has to be before, after, or a section that has to be after, before. That increases like confusion. Like they are more confused than they are before reading your article. So you have to organize it. Concepts that you know that you're going to use later, put them first. So explain those ones first, then you move on to the other ones that build upon the concept. Right? So for example, you are writing an article on type hinting in PHP. So you need to explain what type hinting means, what it enables you to do, and all of that before continuing to how to type int your code in PHP, before going into like the functions and everything. So the reader is not confused, like, okay, you are showing me the code from the start. What am I doing? What does type hinting mean? Right? So you have to organize the information logically. So benefits of a particular concept cannot come before you explain the concept itself, because they are just reading, okay, this thing does this thing does this. What is this thing? Right? So you have to organize information logically to help your readers understand better and easier. So the next one is define technical terms. So you need to provide clear definitions or explanations for technical terms or acronyms, especially if your audience may not be familiar with them. Right? So this works in cases where like the concept you are using in the article is like foreign to the reader. Like a beginner developer might not know what authorization is. So you have to like define it for them to like understand first before they start saying the term in other sentences or sections in the article or in the document, right? So you have to define any term clearly before using them in your article. So that's like a very, very important tip that you can use to improve, because when you read and you see that, okay, you mentioned authorization and the article is for beginners, you have to think that, wait, the reader will not understand what authorization means. So you can just like write a short paragraph or a simple sentence on authorization before moving on. So the next one on the list is using visual aids. So using images, diagrams, charts, tables helps in clarifying complex concepts or data. Right? For example, if you want to compare the tool you are explaining to another tool in terms of like some benefits and disadvantages, you can just use a table to do that. This is my tool, this is the other tool, and you put the benefits under the relevant benefits under each of them to show that, okay, these are the differences between these two, right? So visual aids are very, very important. But visual aids can be unnecessary sometimes, because I read some articles that uses GIFs or some memes in the articles. I'm like, what's this? It doesn't even contribute anything to the article. So using visual aids, just go through your document, your article, and determine that, okay, I need to like put a diagram here. And it should be like needed before you do that, because there are some cases where like some people explain a term, then they put the definition of that term in an image, then they put that image again. So that's just repetition. So just use visual aids where necessary, not every time, right? So that's that about visual aids. So the next one on the list is stick to a single idea per paragraph. So each paragraph should focus on a single main idea to avoid confusion. Don't talk about multiple things in one single paragraph, so it's just long and confusing for them. Like, there are a lot of concepts in this one paragraph, and I'm not getting what this person is trying to communicate here. So one single idea per paragraph makes a lot of sense and improves clarity, so they can guess that, okay, this thing is clear. Then any other thing you want to communicate, you can put it in another paragraph. That's it. So the next one is use transitions. So using transitional words and phrases is like something I had to like start to consciously do in my articles, because I don't normally do them before. But when I submit my articles, I notice like the editor puts them in like however, therefore, in addition, to like connect ideas and improve the flow. So I had to like start doing this consciously after like noticing a lot of the correction in my articles when they send them back to me, to like confirm the editing. And I see that, okay, this person is adding a lot of this, however, therefore, in addition, in conclusion. Yeah. So you need like those words to connect ideas and improve flow. Another thing is another form of transition could be like when you finish like a section of the article, you can just I'm putting the link in the chat box again for you, Mr. Okoro. Yeah, so
All right, thank you very much.
you're welcome. So another form of transition would be to, after each section, to just like, after a section, you can just say, we are going to explore this particular concept in the next section. That's like a very simple way to connect ideas. Like they know like the next thing you are going to explain before even going into the thing. So just use transitions. However, therefore, in addition, it improves flow and clarity altogether. So the next one is write clearly, not creatively. So I'm sending a message here. Okay. So write clearly, not creatively. Technical writing should prioritize clarity over literary flair, right? So you should keep your language straightforward, right? So you don't have to be like them. A very good example of this would be sometimes when I read some articles, the a very good one I read that I was so angry and annoyed about the whole idea. Like the person used was it God of War or Lord of the Rings, like characters in Lord of the Rings to explain technical concepts. I'm like, this does not make any sense to me because I've never watched a lot of these series like that, all these popular series, Game of Thrones, Harry Potter. I've never seen one episode of all those things, and you're using it to like explain HTTP codes to me. So does not make any sense to me. I was very annoyed. Like, what is this? So you are not writing to show off your creativity. You just need to write clearly. So write in a way that anyone and everyone that understands like basic English can know what you are talking about and improve their knowledge. Because I could not forget the article because I even tried to go into it like 2-3 sections deep, and I'm like, who is Ragnarok or Ragnar, or why are you comparing it to HTTP codes? So don't do that, please. Just write clear English that everyone can understand and keep it moving. So yeah, write clearly, not creatively. So another thing you can do to improve clarity is avoiding ambiguous pronouns. So make sure it's clear what nouns and pronouns like it, this, and that refers to. Like before using that in your article, you have to like mention something. Maybe, okay, a good example would be Google Docs helps you like improves collaboration, and that improves productivity. So the reader will know that that in that sense means Google Docs being a collaborative tool, right? So don't mention it, this, that without having like something to that you've explained or mentioned previously that you're referring to again. So make sure it's clear what nouns, pronouns like it, this, and that refer to. So they know that, okay, this is what this person is talking about. You just don't read that and they have to like go back multiple sections to like, what does that mean in that context? So just make sure it's clear what those pronouns mean, right? Or if you know that they have to like go back multiple sentences or paragraphs to understand what this means in the context, just mention that thing again or mention that person again and keep it moving. For example, if you mentioned Sarah 2 sentences back and you just put she in another sentence, like 4 sentences after, they'll be like, who is she in this case? So they, instead of making them go back to understand that you're talking about Sarah, just put Sarah again. So they can just keep moving and they don't have to like go back or reread again before understanding what you are referring to. So avoiding ambiguous pronouns improves clarity a lot because it's just clearer that okay, this is what this person is talking about. So the next one is considering your audience background. So knowing that my audience is a professional will help me skip a lot of explanations. Like I'm just assuming that okay, this person knows these things already, so there's no need to like repeat them, except you know that okay, this article can cater to beginners, intermediate developers or experts. So you have to like explain because you don't know who is reading, right? So, but once you determine that okay, this is for beginners, you just know that I have to explain every concept before using them. But if you know that okay, my audience, the target audience is expert developers, you can just omit all those explanations and go into the deep part of the article, like just explain the concept immediately without explaining the underlying ones, right? So once you determine the background of your audience, you know that okay, there are some things I have to do and there are some things I can skip, right? So tailor your explanations to the level of knowledge of your readers are likely to have. So the next one is using examples. So use examples, provide concrete examples or case studies to illustrate complex concepts, right? So this can be building a simple version of a feature in your article to just help people understand. For example, I when I wrote about encapsulating your code with modules in JavaScript. So, or a better one would be when I wrote about classes in PHP. So in classes, there are levels of access to information. So I used like an example of a law firm that has like user data, and the person that is trying to access the information has to have like a certain level of clearance to explain that concept. Like, okay, before you can say the details of the case, like the evidence submitted and all of that, you have to be like a prosecutor, or you have to be like, you have to have some certain level of clearance before you can access particular information in the application. So I just built that little feature. Okay, if this person is an intern, they should not be able to access this. But if they are an associate or a lawyer or a prosecutor in the firm, they should be able to access the information, right? Or if they are not assigned to that particular case, they should not be able to access the evidences and the documents. So that's like a real life example to just communicate that, okay, this is what this means. So if you put like private in front of the data in the code, like not everyone will be able to access the information in that data. So concrete examples, case studies are like very, very useful when you want to illustrate like, okay, explain how this thing works. but that does not mean you should be doing like the article that was using Harry Potter to explain technical concepts. They are not related, right? Real life use cases that you know that anyone and everybody can understand. Like, okay, everyone knows about legal issues, or at least someone that has this technical knowledge can understand that, okay, legal issues are usually like what's this word? They are usually like sensitive. So you're handling sensitive data. So just look for things that you know that it will make it easier for people to understand, not something that will confuse them more. Right. So that's that for improving clarity in technical writing. So if you have any questions so far, you can drop them in the chat box. So the next one is, and the last one is improving consistency, technical writing. So the first one is follow a style guide. So sticking to a style guide helps you write consistently, in the sense that your formatting, your writing style, your font size, heading size, font sizes, and everything will be consistent because the details are already in the style guide. You must use 12 pixel font size for paragraphs, and you should not bold them. So that's like a very, very straightforward information, and you have to stick to that in your writing, because if you bold a whole paragraph, it will look confusing, like why is this paragraph bolded, right? So follow a style guide to the letter. It can be like any one of the popular ones on the internet, or the one that your company has prepared internally. So this even reduces the amount of editing that the editor has to do, because if you don't follow a specific style guide, the editor has to like arrange things or format them properly before sending back to you or publishing. So follow a style guide. So use templates. If available, use predefined formats to ensure consistency in documents within your organization. So templates can mean maybe the style guide has like a template for tutorial articles, blog posts, references, API references, or any other reference. So you can just use those templates to guide your writing, right? So that helps a lot when you have templates like, okay, the templates for tutorials include introduction heading, prerequisites heading, introducing the concepts, then explaining the step-by-step process of building out the project or anything you are explaining in the article or in the document, right? So templates are very, very nice to have and use when writing, but they are not a must. So you can just use your intuition to write and use the other tips that we've talked about to guide everything, in the sense that explain concepts before using them, use proper pronouns, just make everything readable if you don't have templates. But if you can, use templates. They are very, very straightforward and easier. So moving on, create a glossary. So this is important in cases where maybe you're working on a full-blown documentation for a whole project, right? So terms that come up consistently in the documents, you can just create a glossary to maintain them. So the glossary will be available to anyone using the documentation to just go there and search for, okay, what's the meaning of authentication in the context of using this project or this product. So they can just go there, so search for authentication, and authentication means so, 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 and so in the glossary. So that's it. So creating a glossary is very, very useful when writing like a large documentation. But if you're writing just one article, you don't need a glossary. Just explain the terms and concepts as you go, and that's it. So creating a glossary improves consistency in the sense that you know that when you mention authentication, the meaning is the same as the meaning in the glossary, except if it's a different one, you can just spell it out in that part of the document. So moving on, we have checking spelling and capitalization. So be consistent in your use of capitalization and spelling for technical terms and product names. So one mistake I usually do, I still do now, is spelling JavaScript with a small s instead of a capital S, because JavaScript is one word. So I just assume that okay, the J is the only word that should be capitalized. So I got like, when editors edit my articles, I see that changes, like, okay, this person changed like all my mention of JavaScript to have like capital S for the S that is included in the spelling. So why is this? So I had to like go check and see that okay, JavaScript is a term, not a normal spelling. It's like a name for something. So it has to be properly capitalized. Another thing is when you write things like Slack. Slack in the English word would mean maybe someone is slacking or lazy, and they won't understand that this person is talking about the Slack, the communication tool, right? So check spelling and capitalization and be consistent in your use of capitalization and spellings for technical terms and product names. So just look out for that. So chat. Okay. I just dropped it again, blessing. You're welcome. So the next one is using a parallel structure. So ensure that lists and series of items follow a parallel structure to maintain consistency. Right? Just make sure they have like a proper structure that people can know that okay, this is a list, or this set of items are related. Right? This could mean maybe you put them in, you use lists or you use tables, but just group things in a structure that shows that okay, these things are related. This one is not related, this is related. Just, yeah. So for example, when writing benefits and you want to make them like each benefit, you want to explain them, right? So you can make each benefit a section, but by doing that, you have to like put like a H2 header for like the benefit section. Then each benefit should now be H3 under the H2 heading. So the reader will know that okay, these small headers that are under benefits are the actual benefits spelled out, right? So just ensure that okay, people can figure out that okay, these terms or these lists or these items are related, because that reduces like confusion. You'll be like, okay, what is this what does this thing mean? Is it related to this or not? So they can just figure out that okay, these headings under this particular big heading are related items. So use parallel structures. Again, if you don't understand any of this, you can drop your question. But a lot of them, you understand more about them in the resource I'm going to be linking at the end of this slide. So the next one is using consistent terminology. So always use the same term or abbreviation for a concept or an item throughout the document. So if you know that you want to use an abbreviation, use the abbreviation, but spell it out the first time you mention the concept. So if you know that you want to keep using the full concept, keep using it. If you know that you want to keep using the abbreviation after spelling it out, use the abbreviation. Don't use them interchangeably in different sections of the article. So that causes confusion, right? So that's that. Use consistent terminology throughout. So they know that this abbreviation means the meaning I read earlier, not something else. So maintain document version control. This is when you are working on like large documents, full documentations, or a particular part of a full documentation. So you have to like use version control to avoid inconsistencies in drafts, right? So Google Docs is like a very good tool for that, because you know that, okay, this is what we've written before, these are the changes that have been made, and these are the people who made the changes. So there might be some things that maybe you left for a more experienced person to handle, and when you go through the version control logs, you see that, okay, it's another person entirely that works on that part. You might just single that part out, that, okay, tag the person that should rewrite it to review and rewrite if there's a need for that, right? So when working collaboratively, use version control tools to avoid inconsistencies in drafts. So the next one, okay. The next one is consistent headings and subheadings. So keep the same formatting styles, font size, style for heading and subheadings throughout the document, right? So just use consistent headings and subheadings. This goes back to the style guide. So you can go to the style guide to say, okay, what should be the size of a H1 heading? Should it be 30 pixel, 24 pixel? What should be the size of a normal paragraph? Should it be like 12 pixel? Which font should I use? Should I underline certain things and all of that? So you can use that to improve consistency, in the sense that when someone sees an underlined word, they know that, okay, this is like a concept or a link or whatever it means in your style guide. So consistent headings and subheadings are important, very important. So again, keep writing style consistent. Ensure the tone. This is an example of the we and our, or I and your. So you should be consistent in that sense. Don't use we and our in this paragraph, then use I and your in the next paragraph. That will be like contradicting and confusing for the readers. Like, who is we? You know, if they keep saying we and our, they know that you are talking about you and them. But when they see we and our here, and they see I and your there, I think, okay, who is this person referring to here? Are they still talking about me and them, or they are talking about something else entirely? So just keep that in mind. Ensure that the tone, voice, and writing style remain consistent across the document. Especially in collaborative writing efforts. So to improve that, you need to like go back to like the first one, follow a style guide. So following a style guide will help you eliminate most of these issues. Right. So they know, because in a case of following a style guide, everyone knows that okay, this is how the tone should look like. This is how these certain things should be said. For example, some companies I work with are very big on pronouns, like addressing people. Like if you keep using e in your article, like such writings are not like inclusive. So the style guide spelled everything out, how you should address readers, what pronouns you should use, and all those stuff. So keeping it consistent will mean you have to like follow a particular guide to make sure that everyone is following or writing in a way that everyone else on the team and the reader can understand better. So that would be all for consistency. And so this is the suggested reading. So you can go through this resource for detailed explanations and little tasks that you can do to improve your consistency, clarity, and conciseness in your technical writings. So if you have any question, as usual, you can just drop them now so we go through them before we round up. So again, you can unmute yourself to speak or drop the thank you, Jennifer. Thank you. So you can unmute yourself if you have any question, or drop the question in the chat box. And again, the recording will be available, and the slides are also going to be shared after this class. And if you don't have anything to ask now, and you remember later, you can always drop me a DM on Zoom. Please always DM me on Zoom.
Good afternoon, Adams. This is Eniola speaking.
Yeah, good afternoon, Anela.
Good afternoon. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you.
Sorry, just a quick one. My battery will soon go off now. You mentioned that when you writing, you should kind of how do I put it now? Streamline your thoughts to your audience. So my question is, if you have a broad spectrum, in your audience, you have different people. How do you do that?
Okay,
I
so
understand.
so your question is that if the document is catering to like a wide range of
Yes, like a
audiences.
different spectrum. Yeah. So
Okay.
like you put it, you have the mid-level, you have the advanced. So how do you
Yes. So
streamline?
okay. So when you have a document that caters to beginners, intermediates, and maybe like experts, developers, or your audience. So in that case, you just have to like explain everything. So you write for beginners, but you don't like explain a lot that is going so to avoid boring the professionals or the expert readers, right? So it's just you can a very good thing to do is, if you know that this particular concept is like another topic on its own, and you want to like say something about it, you can just explain it in a single sentence and link to the word, hyperlink the word, so a beginner can know that okay, I don't understand this thing, but here's a link, let me click it to read about it before continuing. So that way you are not boring the expert readers and you are giving like the bare minimum for the beginners to understand what you're trying to convey to them. Right? So you just do that.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
So Redon said, what are examples of strong verb and their usage? Redon, can you like unmute yourself and like tell me what you mean? I don't understand the question. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I meant, can you give examples of strong verbs and how we can use them?
How you can use them?
Yes, or are you there? I'm not hearing you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Okay, yes, I can hear you now.
Yes, using strong verbs just means that use the verb that is tailored to what you are trying to do. So if you want them to write something, just tell them to write. Don't tell them to do. Right?
Okay,
So write is better than do. In the case of maybe you are telling them to put write something in their code. So instead of saying do the authentication or do the method, right? You can just tell them that, okay, write this particular thing in your code. It's just a way of being clear. Do you get? So use the particular verb that you want, something you want them to do is what you should use. So write this or go through this or read this, right? It's better than just saying do this. So write, read, correct this, replace this, right? They're better than just telling them more random or like do this, do that. So write specific verbs. So I hope that answers your question.
yes, thank you.
It does, right? Hello, I can hear you, Redon.
Yeah, I said thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. So if anyone has questions, just unmute yourself or drop it in the chat box so we can round up. So Jennifer Mbonu, is this your first time with us?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so
Can you hear me?
you're welcome. And one thing we
Thank
do
you.
is everyone has to like introduce themselves when they join. So what do you do currently? What is your like experience and why did you join this training? Just few words and anything you can share.
Okay, so my name is Jennifer. I currently work with the FinTech as a technical writer. I have less than 1 year experience. Previously, I just transitioned into tech 2021 after a bootcamp and coded for a bit before technical writing role came through. I'm here to learn and just get better on my skills, collaborate with people, and yes, get more exposure to SOPs, standard and technical items, as well as opportunities. Fun fact about me, I love K drama. So if you know any new or interesting Korean drama, Asian drama, pretty much, you can let me know. So it's nice to meet everyone. Looking forward to collaborating with you guys and learning from you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for that, Jennifer. So I'm assuming you've published a number of articles already on like your personal blog or something?
No, I'm not. I'm not. My role is more of documents I can't share. Document for the company I can't share that. Repos are not public. They're private, and yeah, I can't share that. So yeah, I'm
Okay.
looking forward to also building my portfolio. Yes, I do
Yes.
not. I'm not up to a year in technical writing either. So yeah,
Okay,
this is just
great.
the best time to
Yes.
to grow.
So yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome. That's a very good call, actually. So towards the end of this training, we're going to be setting up a blog. Everyone has to set up a blog, right? We'll review together, we outline, we draft it, then we'll publish. So you are publishing at least 2 articles by the end of this training. So thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for sharing what you just shared with us. We also look forward to working with you, knowing more about you, and just learning more together. So thanks for being here. So I'm assuming everyone understands what we've just discussed. And again, after going through the slides or the suggested reading, if you don't understand any parts of what we learned today, just shoot me a message on Zoom specifically, because some persons text me on Teams instead. So, and I think I'm uninstalling Teams soon because I don't use it for any other thing, right? So make sure you reach out to me on Slack. I use no, sorry. So sorry. Reach out to me on Zoom instead. So any question you have, you need the slide, you need anything, just let me know on Zoom. So thank you so much everyone for joining, and I'll see you on Wednesday.
Thank you.
You're welcome.